23. This is a Kearney Board of Aldermen meeting. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sheila, have you had a chance to take roll?
Everyone is present, Mayor.
Okay. We'll move on to public hearings. We have a public hearing scheduled this evening to receive public comments regarding the rezoning only for 278 acres at the northwest quadrant of Nation Road and West 19th Street from RP1 Low Density Residential Planned District and RP3 Medium Density Residential Planned District to R1 Low Density Residential District and C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. As I mentioned, this is a request to have a public hearing for the rezoning only at this time. Any report from staff?
I would just like to add that the Planning and Zoning Commission, they did review a preliminary plat that was associated with this rezoning for an update on the Stallings Ranch. So that project would have 270 acres for single family residential, and then a corner at Nation Road and 19th Street of neighborhood commercial land use that's be consistent with the proposed rezoning today.
All right. Before I open the floor for public comment and input, if you are going to speak, we're going to ask that you sign in, please. But when you come up to the podium after you sign in, please state your name and address for the record. At this time, I will open the floor for public comment and public input.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Ron Cowher, 405 South Leonard. Excuse me, 405 South Leonard, Liberty, Missouri. Here on behalf of the two applicants for the project, Star Acquisitions, LLC, and Timothy D. Harris. Not really a whole lot to offer in addition to this. The density is going down significantly with this new proposed. That's really neither here nor there on the zoning, but we do have a commercial component to the project. Super excited to finally do something. This project's been hanging around for a long time, and it's been stagnated, I think, since 2004, 2005. So we're excited to get going on it. Happy to answer any questions or address any comments from the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Cowher.
Thank
any
you.
Questions from board? See nobody else move, I will close. Is it not? Yeah. If you have want to speak for or against the rezoning, now's your time. If you can come to the podium, have you sign in and then state your name. Okay.
Already signed in. My name is Kelly Wright. I live at 14709 Fox Run Drive. We were up here the other night, last week, talking to the planning and zoning. One of the concerns that we've had, even when Hunt Midwest had this, was having the roads that are coming into Fox Run stay closed. Most of the, I would say the vast majority of the people in there has stated that they want to keep it closed. I know the planning and zoning said they would like to have another entrance, and one of my other fellow homeowners, Steve Ray, had a email from the previous planning and zoning that went through that, and it was talked about opening up one of the roads into Fox Run. That would be 146th, and that way would cut down on about 75% of the subdivision of traffic coming in there. And like I told the planning and zoning, I built my house up here in Fox Run about 20 years ago. And when I come down off of 35 and get onto Lightburn Road, there is cars that zip through the light on 69 North. They'll turn around right there to cut through and come through just to save 30 seconds and stand in the stoplight. And I could see this happening coming through our subdivision. And a compromise would be what they talked about, leaving the furthest northest point, Fox Run, leave it closed, and open up 146 if you say we need to have, two entrances and exits out. I think that would meet the parameters and be able to keep most of the traffic out of our subdivision. Because I do believe it's a concern. We have people that walk in our subdivision. We do not have sidewalks or anything like that. And it's a big concern because what I see every night coming down, that people won't you know, just wait the stoplight for 30, 40 seconds, they're gonna cut through our subdivision. I can almost guarantee, because people are impatient, and if they can cut through, they will, and that'll add a lot of traffic into our subdivision. So I would ask the board, from what the previous planning and zoning, not the one currently in 2023, but back then, consider opening up the 146th Street and leaving the Fox Run when closed in the back. That way, we'd still have what the fire and what everybody's been saying is catastrophe. If we needed to get out of our subdivision, we would have two entrance, two exits, one off 144 and then the other one off 146. I wish you'd consider that. You know, we are taxpayers, and, you know, we want to keep our little subdivision, you know, as best we can. We understand that, and I think that would be a good compromise. So I appreciate you listening to me tonight.
No problem. Thank you for sharing your concerns and requests with the board.
Thank you.
The map that shows the plat and box run like you did at the P and Z game.
We've got, maybe.
I'm just trying to show where my property is. Well, my tech support guys are doing a great job. My name's Steve Ray. I live at 14610 Northeast 147th Terrace. That's in the far northeast part of Fox Run. So if you're not all familiar, Dave's got it up there. Fox Run is immediately to the west and the south of the L-shaped development that's being proposed here. Originally, it was an 80-acre tract that was owned by the developer, Frank Kuchera, and there was another existing home on the place. He subdivided it up into, there are approximately 20-acre or 2-acre lots, so we have 40 lots in our homes. Again, I live in the northeast corner, so there's one stub that goes out that dead ends at the Stallings Ranch property. There's a 36-inch culvert that runs underneath the road there. All the water that drains down off of the east side there comes down into my neighbor's yard. It goes through that culvert and dumps into my backyard. I've seen rainstorms where there's so much water coming through, it backs up at the culvert. My neighbor has a pond in his yard, and it actually has breached the road and come across the road. So I know there's been water studies, drainage things, and stuff like that done. But I just want to make sure it's on the record and recorded that I have concerns about water runoff. We all know what happens from time to time down here on 33 Highway, and I think that was probably caused by some of the price chopper issues. So this is a lower density than what Hunt Midwest had in there, so I don't see, you know, the major amount of, large amount of concrete and that was going to be in there, but still, I have concerns about water runoff as well as my neighbor and that. So for posterity purposes, I hope I never have a "I told you so" moment, but if I do, I'd like it documented. The road stubs, those were originally put in there so that if Mr. Kuchera acquired land from the Stallings to the east or to the north, that he could include it in Fox Run. November 18th of '98 is when the covenants and restrictions were filed with Clay County. It specifically states in here that if there's any other additional property added, it would be under this covenants and restrictions. So that's why those road stubs were initially there. As my neighbor communicated, we're in the county, so law enforcement is dispatched from the county. When you open roads up, you allow more opportunities to come into the neighborhood, so crime is a little bit of a concern. Our roads are county roads, so maintenance, that type of thing. So if you do need two accesses, which I understand the county would like in rural subdivisions, the one on 146 would be the most preferable to those in Fox Run. So thanks for taking time out of your evening. It's been 18 years since I was in front of the Planning and Zoning Board last time, so there's not too many of you here that are still here. Mr. Holt, I recognize you. So thanks for listening to us.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of the rezoning request? Seeing nobody move, the floor is closed for public comment input. Any items of discussion or questions from the board?
Was there any water retention?
There'll be
Drawn
stormwater
up.
detention in our project, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, has it been written up yet or anything that we can show,
Ron
Mr.
could
Ray?
maybe explain a little bit more, but there's a preliminary report that says detention is required. As they do the phases that have those detention basins, then we'll have more detailed information on how they design the basins and the storm lines, in and out.
But do you don't have anything preliminary that you can give to Mr. Ray?
We do, actually, yeah. Whenever we submitted the preliminary plat and the rezoning application, accompanying that was what we call a macro drainage study, which looks at it in holistic. That report was submitted to the city, who in turn forwarded it to the city engineer. They did a fairly extensive review of that, came back with multiple comments. We addressed those and got that document approved by the city engineer. There was also, they asked for FEMA drainage calculations on the, back in the, where the blue lines are back there. Yeah. So back in there was, that's a fairly large creek. That drains about 800 acres. So we did FEMA cross sections through that to actually understand what the 100-year flood elevation would be. So the quick answer is yes, we've done fairly extensive study on this at this level. David is correct. As we come in with each phase, there will be even a more in-depth study that accompanies that.
Now, on that back side of there, is that currently in a flood zone?
It is. Yep. It's a flood zone. FEMA never does us any favors whenever they do this, but they put it in a flood zone, but they don't tell us what the elevations of the flood, what they call the BFE, the base flood elevation is. So then we have to go out and substantiate through calculations. It turns out to be a pretty extensive study. So we've already done that. There again, at the preliminary level, we've done that and submitted that to the city engineer, and he's agreed with that.
But is that the headwaters for that?
So actually downstream at 144th Street, there's, I think it's Rock Branch or Rock Creek. Don't quote me on that. But there's a large tributary that really comes in, and although the tributary that catches the corner of our property is 800 acres, the Rock Creek tributary is like 12 or 1,300 acres, and it also joins up with the 800 acres at 144th Street. So yeah, there's a lot of water at 144th Street.
Any other questions for the applicant or their representation?
I'm assuming that the fire district has looked at this, and as far as the entrances and the stubs, as far as what
Yeah, we
they're,
make both of the stubs in the preliminary plat, both stub connections were proposed, and that's how the planning and zoning approved that. Same thing happened in 2005, that old plan was approved with both of those stubs being made at that time.
All right, I will ask the board, we have ordinances under their own separate section, but this evening, if we would go ahead and consider voting on the proposed ordinance, a motion approving Bill 23-2023, an ordinance amending Chapter 400 of the Municipal Code, the Comprehensive Zoning Regulations of Kearney, Missouri, rezoning approximately 278 acres at the northwest corner of Nation Road and West 19th Street to R1 Low Density Residential District and C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, as requested by the applicant Timothy D. Harris and Star Acquisitions. If we could read, if we need, if we can make a motion to move that item up to public hearings.
so moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? If you can read the proposed ordinance, first reading by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 400 of the Municipal Code, the Comprehensive Zoning Regulations of Kearney, Missouri, rezoning approximately 278 acres at the northwest corner of Nation Road and West 19th Street to R1 Low Density Residential District and C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, as requested by Timothy D. Harris and Star Acquisitions.
Move to approve on first reading.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading by title only, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 400 of the Municipal Code, the Comprehensive Zoning Regulations of Kearney, Missouri, rezoning approximately 278 acres at the northwest corner of Nation Road and West 19th Street to R1 Low Density Residential District and C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, as requested by Timothy D. Harris and Star Acquisitions.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Pull the board, please.
Alderman Holt.
Aye.
Alderwoman Barker.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Lehman.
Aye.
Votes unanimous and the ordinance passes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next item under the agenda this evening, personal appearances. We have a resident Pat Englet here this evening who contacted me and requested to approach the board and discuss his desire for the board to repeal and eliminate our current pit bull ban ordinance.
Thank you. My name's Patrick England, and I am a resident of Kearney. I've heard my name from all the emails I've sent to you, but I've only heard back from a select few of you. Thank you for those return emails. I moved here in 2018, after 4 years of living in Kansas City, when I moved here for my new job. It took us a while to find a place, but me and my wife decided Kearney was the place for us. Great schools, not too far, not too close to the city. Top-notch schooling, and I have a grandchild who's gonna be going to school here very soon. It was perfect for us. But soon after, we had our Pomeranian Chihuahua mix put down for health reasons, and we told ourselves we'd never get another dog. We were done. And I changed, and my friend offered us a great American bully. She was just the sweetest dog. We instantly fell in love with her. My 2-year-old grandson especially did. It was a short amount of time, we found out that Kearney didn't allow pit bulls. We had to give her back because of an outdated and ridiculous breed ban. Had I known that I had to give up a family member, not just a pet, I would have not moved here. Kearney touts itself as a progressive city, but with its booming expansion, aquatic park, splash pad, and soon to be open I-35 interchange. But you guys were held back by outdated laws. By city definition, in section 205, a pit bull is defined by 4 recognized breeds. I can go through them, but what gets me is the vague and broad description of any mixed breed, of those recognized breeds, or any dog that has the characteristic of those dogs. It leaves open interpretation, identification on a breed without actually knowing what it is. When I started communication with the city back in 2020 with emails, Mayor Pogue was kind enough on December 7th, 2020, on a Zoom meeting, telling me to be part of it, to repeal the ban. During this time, I know you've all received emails, however, no one wanted to take a vote on it. And you suggested that it go to vote next April election. I was excited about that, but it was short-lived. I called you February 1st, 2021, or for the board meeting. I wanted to see what the wording was on that for the election, but it wasn't part of the election because you weren't petitioned correctly. I don't know how you petition correctly except emails and calls. And I know that was done, so why wasn't it part of that election in 2021? On February 3rd, Mayor Pogue had an unofficial poll on his Facebook page to get feedback on the pit bull ban. Overwhelmingly, the opinion was to get rid of it, but we haven't heard anything else. He even encouraged people to email you, or against, but still nothing. I started an unofficial poll this past year on Facebook. 93% wanted it gone. As far back as 2019, another resident started a change.org poll. 469 votes to end the ban. But you sit here in silence, pushing it back, ignoring it. Who do you represent? You're not talking to anybody. On October 18th, 2021, an email from Mayor Pogue stated that the board still receives requests on this topic and that Kearney already has, and I quote, a great dangerous dog ordinance that covers all breeds. Still nothing from you. Who do you represent? On August 8th, 2022, I emailed again requesting action. I addressed the fact that Kearney has a newly appointed animal control officer, which apparently was one of the hangups to repeal the ban. I also asked for this to be put on the ballot for the next election. I guess that's how it's done. I requested it. Every one of you received this email, but only the mayor responded by saying his position hasn't changed regarding the ban that he wants lifted, as it was brought up twice in board meetings with little discussion. People have emailed you for years to end this ban. Your excuse of not having an animal control officer has been corrected. You already have a dangerous dog ordinance in place. Your excuses are running out. March 21st, 2023, I was contacted by David Lehman, informing me that a draft was being drawn up to repeal this ban, as it was one of his campaign promises. I was asked to bring as many supporters to the April 17th board meeting as the ban was going to be discussed again. I was prepared to speak back then, but I wasn't allowed to because it was not a public comment input item. What constitutes a public item if not this? Mr. Lehman voted again, but was met with no second motion. It ended there. No public input, no vote, no discussion. I got up and left the meeting with another gentleman who was looking to move here. He also thought he was going to be able to speak. And he told me he was not going to move to this backwards town if he had to give up his family pet. This past month, a woman on Facebook was inquiring if Kearney had a breed ban, as she too was looking to purchase a home here. She crossed Kearney off her list. So what do you call? Is this a progressive city or not? No. At the April 3rd meeting, Alderman Spencer said she grew up with a pit bull, but said with young grandchildren, she would hate for them to be attacked by one. Said they are so strong. I have young grandchildren, and I would hate to have them bit by any dog. Does this make me an irresponsible or careless with my grandkids? No. I'm a responsible pet owner, the same as pet owners that you are telling can't have a certain family pet. Kearney already has an aggressive dog ordinance that encompasses all breeds and holds the owners responsible, so why are we singling out the pit bull? It's because of falsely driven narratives and misconceptions. I understand everybody's concerned, but they are based on misconceptions. People believe they are inherently aggressive and cannot be trained. However, the American Temperament Test Society test shows otherwise. Anywhere from 87.4 to 90.8 of the pit bull type dogs pass the test. They have excellent temperament and are successful service dogs, therapy dogs, canine police dogs, and family pets. The Journal of Applied Animal Behavior Science has concluded that the breed does not determine aggression. Factors relevant to aggression include unneutered dogs and dogs subject to punishment-based training methods. Also, the Journal of Veterinary Medicine has determined the same, as there are no difference in aggression between the legislated breeds and their control group, which at the time was a golden retriever. Another misconception is that the pit bull has tremendous bite and can lock their jaws. It's untrue. While any dog bite can do damage, a pit bull bite is slightly higher than a human's bite at 235 pounds of force. German Shepherd has 238, a Rottweiler 328. A Doberman has over 600 pounds of bite force, yet these breeds are not banned, and they shouldn't be banned. We need to eliminate the breed-specific ban and move on with breed-neutral legislation for aggressive dogs, as numerous cities have, such as Overland Park, Liberty, Independence, and Excelsior Springs. Breed bans are a waste of public resources and divert funds away from factors that are directly tied to public safety and dog bite incidents such as irresponsible owners, abuse, neglect, and problematic dogs of any breed. Breed-specific bans discriminate against responsible pet owners and punishes dogs based on their appearance, resulting in the seizure of dogs, the overcrowding of kennels with dogs that are labeled unadoptable because of their breed, and they're usually put down. We either end this ban now or hold a costly public vote to vote on it. I ask you to repeal this ban now. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Inglet was the only person that requested to be on the agenda this evening. I will allow any Kearney resident, anybody that lives inside the city limits of Kearney that would like to address the board on the topic as well. Since he was the only one that requested, I would like to limit the time to any other input to a couple minutes per resident. I'm never one to not allow a resident to approach and address their elected body. So I don't want to turn anybody away this evening that would like to maybe share their thoughts as well. If you come forward, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Sharpless. I live at 1404 Heather Street. And I just have a real brief comment.
Sure.
I don't have a pit bull. So, and I'm not likely to get one. I don't intend to get one. I have a German Shepherd, and that's the kind of dog I like. But, so I don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. So I'm not here advocating for any personal reasons. I'm not an expert in animal behavior, but I do believe we should listen to experts when we craft our laws, rather than letting fear guide us. So I'd just like to provide a sampling of the experts that oppose breed-specific legislation. The American Veterinary Medical Association, the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, the National Canine Research Council, the American Kennel Club, the ASPCA, the Association of Professional Dog Trainers, the Humane Society of the United States, the Pet Professional Guild, the Animal Justice League of America, and this is just a few of them. In addition, these experts oppose breed-specific legislation from a legal perspective, the American Bar Association and the Department of Justice. They don't believe there's any legal ramification or legal justification for this. And finally, from a liability standpoint, State Farm Insurance doesn't agree with breed-specific legislation, and they see it from a liability standpoint. They know that there's no more liability from pit bulls than from any other type of dog. So if all of these experts can agree that breed-specific legislation is not an effective solution for dog bite prevention, perhaps we can finally agree that it does nothing to make the citizens of our town safer. Thank you. And I have some printouts if I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
Just some supporting documentation.
Okay. Do you want your folder back? Would you like to back? Okay.
No.
Anybody else? Any response for, okay, go ahead.
I'm Jennifer Wood. I live at 401 South Eddy Avenue in Kearney. And I just want to say that I had a pit bull before I moved to Albuquerque, or before I moved to Kearney. I lived in Albuquerque, where pit bulls were predominantly the most popular dog. I spent years volunteering at the animal shelter. I spent months out at Best Friends Animal Society. When I came here, we weren't going to live in Kearney because there was a pit bull ban. The only reason we ended up here was because I had a realtor who did some homework and figured out that if we bought a house outside city limits, that we were fine. And so we originally bought the house outside city limits until we had to put him down. And then we moved into the city in hopes that this ban would be repealed, because I knew that the mayor was for repealing it. So I hope it at least goes out to a public vote, if nothing else, because I'm pretty sure it will not last.
All right, thank you so much. All right, seeing nobody else, we'll close the floor for public input comment on that topic. Any response from the board? I'm sorry, yes, one more? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, name and address, please.
I'm Vivian Serby. I live at 712 East 15th Street. I heard that pit bulls also are banned from Kearney because of dog bites, but the pit bulls aren't the ones who started the dog bites. It's the humans. And if a human started the dog bite, but the pit bulls are banned, then I think that the humans should be banned from Kearney, if not the pit bulls. But that could never happen. So, that being said, I believe that the pit bulls should not be banned from Kearney.
Hey Vivian, I got a message for you if that's okay. So it takes a lot of courage to stand up for what you believe in, let alone at a young age. And I want you to know and understand that just because you're not old enough to vote doesn't mean that all of us here don't care about you, right? We represent the community in whole. So thank you very much for being brave and sharing your message with us tonight. Thank you.
So I'm very unprepared, did not plan on speaking, so excuse the attire, I came from work, but my name is Erin Walker. I live at 2400 Summit Trail in Kearney. I've lived here for some time, and I know that they did their statistics, but I just thought maybe on a personal level, maybe that would kind of sway this vote, but I am afraid of pit bulls at one point. I was one that literally, if a dog comes up to you, it's scary. And then with my work, I've been in the industry in apartment communities for over 20 years. And at every community that I've ever worked at, there's roughly over 60% of the community's own pets. And currently at my work now, there's a lot of American bullies. And I have learned hands-on that they're not the scary dogs. In fact, I also own an 85-pound golden doodle, and I own a 1.5-pound little mini Yorkie Terrier. I'll tell you, the Yorkie Terrier is the one that you need to watch out. And on the stat level, I actually do have pets or dogs at work that have bitten people, and never one in 20 years has it ever been an American bully. It has actually been the smaller dogs, and that's hands-on. And if you want stats from an apartment association, I am on the board at Apartment Association of Kansas City. I'm also getting on the board for the National Apartment Association, and I was just there in Atlanta last week. And that band with the NAA is actually driving where NAA is now also trying to get where pit bulls are allowed in all apartment communities. So it is obviously something that's very passionate, and it's not just in Kearney, but it's everywhere. And I think it's passionate because you'll see a lot more emotional health that comes along with this. People need their pets, and that's why you have emotional health support from them. And I think when Pat Englert was speaking about how much his grandson and him had this pet and have to give up, it's a human figure in their family. And that's why I think all this room has tons of people in here, and maybe some won't speak because I was one that's sitting in the chair, but it's like they are a part of your family. It makes you feel better, it makes you feel whole, and that shouldn't be taken away from people who are just scared because of the unknown, that they think that something's gonna happen. So I just want you to kind of do your homework and look at the stats and maybe read all the stuff that they gave you and just understand that maybe there needs to be a change here in Kearney. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that would like to address the board on this topic? Okay, I'll make a few comments and then I'll open it up to the board and allow them to respond if they choose to do so. Thank you all for taking the time out of your evening to come and address the board. As I told Mr. Englert when he contacted me multiple times on the topic, I'll never I'll never silence a resident, not give them the opportunity to address their elected body. Yeah, I'm on the record for my stance here. However, as mayor, I vote only as a tie-breaking vote. So, other thing I'll add is I think it was Mr. Englert that mentioned that there's law enforcement canines that are pit bulls. I know our own police department has had to not do some training sessions inside the community because the group that they train with does have a couple of pit bull canine, very skilled, mannered, obedient dogs. Well, we've had to send our officers elsewhere for some training that they could have done here in town because they could not bring those dogs inside the community. So with that, that's all I have to say on the topic. Would anybody from the board like to respond?
Well, I'll go on record. I'm gonna be probably booed out of here, but with pit bulls, they're a little bit different than your average dog. In the fact that when a German Shepherd or a Terrier or something like that bites you, they bite. When a pit bull bites, they yank. The damage that's done is massively intensified. I just gave last meeting, in fact, to this whole board, a story that was on Fox News about a grandmother who was at a home with a family who had a pit bull, and she was mauled to death by a family pit bull. We had a gentleman right here in town who most of you know, but I won't use his name. If you want to talk to me afterward, I will, but I don't have permission to put it on record. He was at his daughter's house where he had been many, many times, and he reached down to give a ice cream cone to his granddaughter, and the pit bull misinterpreted or whatever and mauled his whole back of his calf, and he had multiple stitches and a lot of damage done, and to this day he has muscle problems. You have a pet, but at any time this dog can bite, and that's with any dog. But with a pit bull, the kind of bite that you get is a different, more intense bite. Maybe you're right on the pound of pressure per bite, but the method in which it bites is completely different than on a smaller dog. So I'm not saying that any other dog bites more or less than a pit bull does. I'm just saying that the damage that is done with a pit bull is much more intensive. And you hear more of when there is a mauling of a pit bull, that death can occur. And it can occur because of the kind of ripping that it does. It opens up blood vessels, and all of a sudden you're bleeding, and you have more damage that can be done. So I do believe that this dog is maybe not so much aggressive in its attack as much as aggressive in when it does attack of the damage that it does. And I would hate to change the rules and then have a child or even an older person who gets mauled and unfortunately passes away, as this grandmother did, because at one time we did protect the citizens of Kearney, but then we changed it and now we're not protecting them. So that's where I'm at, and I'm on record with that. Well, I'll go on record as being the exact opposite. I have friends that have pit bulls, and these pit bulls will do nothing but lick you to death. They slobber a lot, and you're gonna get wet when they lick you. I also have family that have Doberman pinschers. And like Patrick said, you know, Doberman has a stronger bite than a pit bull does. But yet, these two Dobermans will crawl up in your lap and lay down and fall asleep. I firmly believe that no matter what breed the dog is, it's either aggressive by the way they're trained, by the way they're handled, or they're not aggressive by the way they're trained. And I have small dogs, and my dogs are very protective. And are they gonna bite and tug? No, probably not. And even if they do, they don't have that kind of strength. But they are very protective. And I don't care whether it's a Rottweiler, a Pit Bull, a Doberman, they're gonna be protective. And to have a discriminatory ordinance on record
And now Kearney being the only city in the metropolitan area that now has a pit bull ban, with Independence just in the last 2 weeks repealing their ban. And I know a gentleman in Independence when I worked there that was mauled and was mauled almost to death by pit bulls. And when the investigation came out, that gentleman was tormenting those pit bulls, and that's why he got attacked. And so I think there's any dog out there that if you torment them enough, or if they feel like they're threatened, they're gonna protect. And yes, there is a individual in town that was attacked. And I've talked to him, and I specifically asked him a question. Do you think that when you reach down to give your daughter or your granddaughter or granddaughter, okay, the ice cream, do you think that that dog could have misinterpreted that you were reaching down to grab a hold of her or some aggressive means? And he stopped and he said, I suppose it's possible. And so I think a lot of the misconception on any dog, regardless of whether it's a pit bull, a Rottweiler, or a Doberman, is how they're trained and how they're raised. And yeah, any dog can be raised mean.
That's, in my opinion, that's why we have a very good dangerous dog ordinance.
Absolutely. So I will go on record as not supporting the breed-specific dog ban. I think it's discriminatory. And why are we discriminating against one specific breed when Rottweilers are as big? They have a different facial structure. And the fact that a boxer mix can be misidentified as being a Rottweiler is, in my opinion, a great travesty to this city. And I know this boxer, and this boxer is not aggressive in any way, shape, or form. And they have 3 little kids. And this dog actually plays and wrestles with those kids. And to be misidentified and the owner's forced to have their dog somewhere else is, and it's not a Rott, it's not a pit. It's a boxer mix, and they have documentation of that, but yet it's not allowed in town because of the way our ordinance is written and the way the identifiers, it's very subjective to personal opinion. So
I think this is a very passionate topic. I personally know 2 people who've been attacked by pit bulls. However, what David is saying is probably true. It's not the dog, it's the owners, and I understand that. I do take exception to the fact that I'm not representing my people. I would say that 80%, and I can prove that 80% of the emails that I've received on this topic are not to repeal ban. So while I personally don't have a problem with going to the dangerous dog ordinance, how do I vote? Do I vote because 80% of the people who live in Kearney that reached out to me, not 80% of the voters, 80% of the people who reached out to me are saying they don't want to change. So that makes a tough call for me.
Last time we had this discussion as a board, not this year, I think last year, when Mr. Englot was here, he asked about, and he has in writing, put it to the vote of the people. And Pat, I just want to remind you what I've said before on that is we can spend the time and resources to put it to the vote of the people, but that's not legally binding. And correct me if I'm incorrect, our city attorney, but even if the residents would overwhelmingly pass it, this board still makes a decision on that topic.
You don't have a petition option.
As a fourth class city. And so I'm afraid you'd be faced with the same vote that you've been faced with the last 2 or 3 times I brought it up to the board.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Then who do you represent? If the people that you say you represent have spoken, who do you represent?
I'm representing the young people who can't defend themselves against a pit bull.
Okay, wait a minute. You say a pit bull doesn't aggressive, when they bite, any dog bite.
That's right.
I had a miniature dachshund that would tear my finger off. Oh, no, it's a miniature, still does that aggressive move that you said, okay? Well, who you represent, the people, if it goes to vote, okay? And the city wants it, you guys can veto it? Who do you represent? Not me, not your people. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
How many emails, you said 80%, but I'm curious on the actual numbers.
It was roughly 10 total.
So I'm just curious.
Well,
No, I'm not trying to be rude.
Well, and I'm not, he thinks that's funny. I can't help who writes me.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. I, as property manager of other sites, and I get that. I 100% get when people are emailing you, you tend to side with who's making the most noise.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay, but we're making the noise now. We're here. Is there anyone here who's not? Because there's more than.
I will
10 people
speak
in
for
here.
those people. There was not a notice put in the paper that this would be an open debate or a hearing or anything, and that the only thing that was in the newspaper or that was published was that there would be a personal appearance. The last time there were more people here that are on the flip side, that 80% that Kathy is talking about, they are just as vocal as you, and they could also fill this room.
Did that notice in the paper have everything on there stating that there was going to be some sort of discussion about the pit bull ban?
No, because
So
it
how are
wasn't
people supposed
supposed
to
to
know?
be a discussion. It was a personal appearance where someone had the opportunity to talk for, I believe it was 2 minutes.
So how are people supposed to know stuff? It's on the agenda, which I see right up here.
I've been requesting this for over 2 years. And it all falls on deaf ears except for 2 people up there. Nobody else has emailed me. Nobody else will give me a response.
I replied to you
You asked
twice.
my address. You asked if I was a resident. And that is it. Okay? I'm sorry it came down to this, but how do we get the public opinion to go? It's been 2 years. How do we do it?
I truly think we will have to spend the money and put this to a public vote because.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
You got your state that's trying to push through 2 bills, the state, to make free bands illegal. Yet here we are. This is not progression. This is not. I know 2 people. I don't know them personally. They're not moving here because of this. So we need to take action. You need to take action. Put it in the paper. Open it up for public discussion. I've been asking for 2.5 years. And I know all of you have received email.
All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda this evening, the consent agenda. Any items of discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, if we can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? We move on to resolutions. A motion approving Resolution 34, 2023, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to sign an engagement letter with Trout, Beeman and Company PC to audit the city's financial records for the fiscal year 2023. You have a report on that item?
Yes, so we have been using accounting solutions to do our audited financial statements for at least the last several years, maybe longer. It's my understanding, I've been reaching out to accounting solutions and they haven't been responding to my requests for them sending an engagement letter, my requests for them to complete the fiscal year 2021 single audit. And knowing that there is a penalty for the city if we do not have our audited financial statements sent to the state auditor's office 6 months after our year end, I started getting nervous and reached out to a CPA firm that I've worked with in the past. I first met them, they partnered with Cochran Hedvick and worked on Clay County's audit. I have experience with them at the city that I previously worked with. Right now, just because of the job market and the shortage of professionals, I knew that the city of Riverside had sent out an RFQ to get bids, and of course we don't have time to do this at this late notice, but they had to issue that RFQ 3 times and beg any firms to even respond to their RFQ. So I did contact Trout Beeman and asked them if they would please be willing to at least give me an amount and propose an engagement letter to the board to complete our audit for fiscal year 2023. They were kind enough to make a proposal. They actually matched the same price that Accounting Solutions had done when they bid on at the last RFQ. It's a $23,000 fee for the audit, and we will need a single audit because of ARPA funds and CARES Act. And so they have given us a price of $5,000 to do that. They will charge us one time this year only a $2,000 setup fee. So basically it's $2,000 more than we had contemplated because of that one-time setup fee. However, my big concern is that we are able to get our audited financial statements done. The penalty for not getting your financial statements turned into the state auditor's office is $500 per day.
So have you received any response from Accounting Solutions since? Are they aware that we're going to consider another option?
They have not responded at all. In their engagement letter and their bid that they did, they were supposed to start field work in May. And I know that they had health issues in the winter because I did a lot of reaching out to them and trying to get responses from them. They actually did come in and they had almost completed the single audit, but they never got it to the completion where we were filing it with the feds. So
do you think that you'll be successful in getting the journal entries and the information that we need to turn over to Trout Beeman to choose to approve your resolution? I am hopeful that we can. They are required by ethical standards, by AICPA ethical standards, to give us our work papers. We paid for those work papers. And so I hope, if not, then we will have to take additional steps to try to enforce that. Okay. Any questions from the board on the proposed resolution?
No, that's sad though, 2021.
The single audit, yes.
Yeah.
If we consider a motion approving resolution 34, 2023, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to sign an engagement letter with Trout, Beeman and Co. PC to audit the city's financial records for the fiscal year 2023.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. We'll move on to the items up for review and presentation. Kathy Harper, the City of Kearney Finance Director, has her monthly financial report.
Just briefly, this is the financial report for the month ending and the year-to-date, 2 months ending May 31st. We've been coming these last couple months, and we'll continue to present this report. On the first page, you'll see it's a year-to-date information. And as discussed last month, the transfers in the water and sewer fund is the only significant item. You'll see that all year because it's a year-to-date report. On the next pages, that's where you're going to see your 1 month breakout, and also the budget and items anybody under or over budget. That everything is moving along according to budget as planned. There's nothing significant that's happened this last month. And I look forward to continuing to present this to you each month.
Any questions from the board? Thank you for the report. I'll move on to mayor's communications. First item I want to mention this evening is to remind everybody that July 3rd, we will have our 4th of July celebration as usual on July 3rd. I think Eric is at 4:30. The inflatables and cotton candy machine and stuff will kick off. The concert, which is this year KC Groove Therapy, will start at 7:30. And then the fireworks should start at 9:30, and we'll have concessions and beverages, things that are there. So it's always one of the best fireworks displays in the area, so hope to see you out there. Next item I want to talk about is we have Ray Kendall here. If I could have Ray come to the podium. We had a extremely successful fundraiser for the Parks Department called Pork for Parks that Ray kindly spearheaded. Those of you that don't know Ray, he works in our Parks Department.
I'm the maintenance guy.
Yeah, and one of our extremely valuable employees. And Ray, I would like to give you the opportunity to just update the board on how the fundraiser went.
I think it went really well. Last I talked to Ryan, we made $1,850. I thought that was pretty good. My goal was, I didn't really have a goal, but in my head it was like 1,000. Everybody I talked to said everything was really good. So I've talked to several people, and now they want to donate, and they've talked about bringing money up here. So hopefully we got the awareness out there. That was kind of part of it too. So other than that, I think. If you got any questions?
So the funds went to the restricted account to the Kearney Parks and Recreation Scholarship Fund that is solely used to help kids that want to play in our rec leagues, that the only reason they are not able to play is due to financial restraints. And so for kids that want to play but their family can't afford the entry fees and stuff, that scholarship fund's been established. And like I said, Ray, Eric, Ryan, and I, and a couple of other staffers from City Hall did some work, but Ray was the brains behind it and put it together. So
yeah, but I was just the brains. There's got to be one.
We know.
If it wasn't these guys, we definitely wouldn't have won as well. We also had a good sponsor, Kevin, up at Price Chopper. He really hooked us up. I think all I paid for was meat, and they donated everything else. So, and I think I buttered him up enough for if we decide to do it again. Maybe not this year, but hopefully next year. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ray, for spearheading that, and thank you to all the residents. We did sell out, by the way, 174 pounds, but we sold out. And thank you to the community for supporting such a wonderful event.
Yep.
Thanks. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Good job.
That concludes my mayor's remarks. We'll move on to the city administrator report.
The next regular board meeting will be Wednesday, July 5th, at 6:30 PM.
We'll move on to Alderman discussion. Alderman Barter.
I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody at the 4th of July celebration on the 3rd.
Alderman Lehman.
I just wanted to just give kudos to Eric and Ryan and him that just left. Right. And the mayor, for the Fork for Parks. I may have been sick, but man, I'll tell you what, that was one of the things that I could taste. And that was the pulled pork. It was excellent. You guys did a great job of getting people through the line and you know, it's always a fun event. And when I talked about smoking, because I smoke meats myself, and so guys, you did a fabulous job on the, and my two dogs loved it, and so.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
I'm not sure
that was I had strict orders to buy them a meal too.
Yeah.
So,
That was a mixed
you know,
compliment.
so I bought them a meal, so. And the only other thing is it's great to be here in person. So it's great to be healthy again and be here in person, so.
Alderman Holt.
Yeah, hey, we had our amphitheater show last week, and I had several people in the audience complain about pot. I know it's technically legal, but there were several people who were complaining about the smell of marijuana being smoked inside the amphitheater. And especially since we have family things out there, I was wondering if there isn't, you know, we have signs over there that says you can't smoke in the park over here. Is there something we could put up at the amphitheater that would say, you know, no marijuana allowed, you know, in the park or whatever, because it was a public nuisance at the concert the other night. So I think that's something that I'd like to see us look into. If, you know, they want to do it outside the amphitheater or something, but when you're got all those people on top of each other like that, it's kind of a nuisance. So I'd like to see us look at doing something about that. Okay. Okay.
Alderman Spencer.
Okay, I'll pass.
Yes, I would like to bring up a topic. I would like to talk about a classic century-old cement corner fence post that originally marked the corner of the Wilkerson property for over 100 years. This corner post is about 5 feet tall and approximately 6 inches across on each side. The Wilkerson family came to Clay County in 1822 and then on up to our area sometime in the 1840s. According to Wilkerson family history, this fence post was installed right around 1920, give or take a year, in the general area of the new roundabout. It was removed from that area when construction began on our new interchange and the roundabouts. That time frame ties in perfectly with American history, which tells us they were trying to clean up and tidy up rural fences with a more modern material of the time, cement. Chris Wilkerson and the family would like to see this antique cement corner post find a permanent home in the center of the western roundabout at the new 19th Street interchange. It would not only represent a family that has been here in our area for over 200 years, and that was their land, it would also represent Kearney's rich agriculture and farming history. Around the same time as the post was originally installed, Kearney, renowned for its cattle, sold the most cattle, both Black Angus and Hereford, per square mile of population than any place else in the United States. This corner fence post standing tall in the center of a ring of our local limestone within a neatly landscaped roundabout could be a wonderful reminder and a symbol of our rural heritage that is slowly disappearing as urban sprawl creeps towards us here in Kearney.
Where's this at right now?
It is still on Wilkerson property. MoDOT moved it from the area of the roundabout, and it now leans against the tree, very close to there. I've brought documenting articles about Wilkerson family being in this area. I also have agricultural and United States articles about it. This one's from 1915, them encouraging the cement fence posts for your corner posts as opposed to the wood ones. You know, back then in 1915 to 1920s, there were a lot of wooden fence posts, and they were wanting to tidy it up and clean it up, and everything just fits right in with all of their history. I think it's something to consider.
The Wilkerson families approached me, specifically Chris, and shared those articles with me and asked about renaming or naming the roundabout for their late father. But this, until this evening, wasn't on my radar, so.
My only thing is, I like the idea, but if we put it out there, the general public isn't gonna know it's Wilkerson's, you know, unless they read that. Is there a way we could put it like in the museum where you got all the documentation that goes with it? That's what I would say.
No,
I mean, I like
because
the
the
idea,
piece of cement at the bottom, it's all cement. It is made to be outside. But yeah, they just wanted it in the center of the roundabout. It doesn't have to say Wilkerson or anything. The family will know that it is a symbol of approximately where that fence post stood for over a century.
I wouldn't take issue with you working with staff on this item. I don't know if we can get consensus from the rest of the board.
I think that's an excellent idea.
I do too. It's just that the general public going by just sees the little
understand.
fence post there, don't get it.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
If there's a way we could, you know.
Dress it up a
Yeah,
bit.
something.
Yeah.
I just got notice, I believe, from council that there's another resident that wished to speak on a separate topic. Did you send me a text? Okay, if we could, I would like to, we've been going for over an hour. I'd like to take a 5-10 minute recess, and then we'll come back and we'll give that resident an opportunity to speak.
I don't know that he just wants to know how to get something on the agenda and that it has to do with code enforcement. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you can email myself or the city administrator and request to be put on a future agenda with an explanation of what you'd want to address the board with.
Yeah, I think might be able to resolve it without having to add on to the agenda. That's what I kind of want to talk about, is whether it needs to be or not.
Okay, yeah, let's take a recess and then we'll be back in 5 minutes or so.
It'll take like 2 minutes.
Sure. All right, we're gonna recess.
For 5 minutes.
Been on, you'd be on different sides. I still love you.
Well, all of a sudden, they agree to not agree.
Sure. What's up, man?
It is illegal in parks, like you don't talk.
I'm closest to
That's right.
and, you know, we used to also own.
Well, I know the guy that was.
Years and years ago, and
Yeah.
our local quarry, like we were talking about, when I did some night college.
I'm not necessarily black and white, you know, or tell him, hey, you got to stop that or you're not.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what you were asking.
Did one make it around to you?
I've seen them before.
Yeah.
There's another one out
Real
there,
basic.
there's another one out there in the tree that's got a dog statue on it.
Yeah, they're real basic. The government, so yeah, I think.
I told you I was gonna bring it up.
I think it's on his own. It doesn't have to have a name on it. People don't know
It's on
what it
his
is.
own.
It just
I
looks
don't
kind of
know
that.
that man.
And if we landscape it, it'll just be next to the for right now, there's nothing, there's nothing written on it, it's just an old corner fence.
Intentionally walking out like a tourist.
So this would be just, I think it's just basic, but it'll still be kind of decorative.
The thing is, if he does something on the outside, and yes, you know, we can cut it down to 10, and he must I'm 62.
Oh, I know, I feel very sabotaged. And for him to speak like that, and if we'd have known, and this had been posted as an open floor and an open item instead of just a personal appearance, since we should have posted an open debate or a public hearing. So there would have been a lot of other people that do have it out.
So, if it works, I believe the long township chickens, but, or your eggs, or put them all in one basket, or whatever that. If it all comes together, yeah, unless you want. Dogs and chickens, I'm done. Dogs and chickens.
Yeah, that's what she was.
Sorry.
Was final print. Well, I guess, yeah, you got it.
I think that's an obstacle.
Mayor, they're gonna talk later.
Okay, so he doesn't want to address the board?
That's what I was, that's what I was thinking. It's an individual. Just for it's not fair. I have to but hey, and again, I can't know her rights. What?
Found out, she's at Baker University with T.
You know, but on the other hand, you know, I think a lot of them just. Wow. I got.
She doesn't want to address the board.
He does, but I'm not letting him tonight. We've already lost all the.
And that's fine, and I get that.
The trailer in the yard. So he'll come back.
Everyone else.
I told him to ask for an extension of time to cure the code enforcement violation.
And is it?
No, he's their son.
So to me.
He wants you to change the code
And then I'll.
to allow trailers in the yard.
All right, I got the form back. All right, back in session from recess. I guess the individual's gonna petition, submit a request for a future meeting after all. So we will not have anybody else speak this evening. It's a code enforcement concern. We do have an executive session notice this evening, a closed session per RSMO 610-021 subsection 1, legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communication between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys. In 610-021 subsection 2, leasing, purchase, sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration therefore. And 610-021 subsection 12 to discuss matters pertaining to negotiated contracts, and our meeting will be adjourned from there. So this does conclude the open public session of our meeting, and we will adjourn once we go into executive session. Can we consider a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderwoman Barger.
Aye.
Alderman Holt. Alderman Lehman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
We'll enter into executive at 7:44. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you.